Hi there. So heatwave in the UK and cancelled meetings meant that I packed my bag, my book, and I decided to come to the beach for the day. And as I was reading my book, I was listening to the waves, and I thought of the waves of change and sustain talk that I often talk about in motivational interviewing training. If you are new to motivational interviewing, as practitioners, we are paying attention to the language that people give us. So specifically, we pay attention to change talk and sustain talk. Change talk is the type of language that we hear that indicates movement towards change, desire to change, curiosity. We hear things like, I want to change, I've had enough of my situation, I need some help, and so on. And at the same time, we often hear sustain talk, and sustain talk means that the person may be happy where they are, and we hear statements that indicate that they are not ready for change, maybe they don't have resources to change. So we hear things like, I don't want to, I don't need to, I don't know how, and so on. And one of the aims of motivational interviewing is to generate change talk and increase the amount of change talk and gently soften the amount of sustain talk. And it's important to kind of tip that balance, but we have to be very careful not to ignore the sustain talk. And this is where my waves come in, by the way. So let me give you an example. Let's say you are working with someone who has been long-term unemployed, and they say something like, I really want to get back to work, but it feels so overwhelming. I've been unemployed for a long time. I have not enough up-to-date skills. I don't have experience. I don't know where to start. It feels overwhelming. Now, as we hear it, we can ask a question that generates some change talk. So, for example, what would make you feel less overwhelmed? So maybe the person would tap into the solutions and give us some change talk. But there is a risk that if we do that and we don't acknowledge the sustain talk, the person may not feel validated, heard, or understood. And that can have real big impact on our trust and engagement with that person. So when you think about waves, this is where my waves come in. So sometimes waves can be very gentle, and they can come into the shore and gently out. And sometimes they can be quite vicious and strong, and they can really suck us into the ocean. And sometimes we hear a lot of sustain talk from people that we work with. And it is very easy sometimes to be drawn into sustain talk and sucked into it, because obviously we care, we want to help people. So there is kind of two risks there. One is if we don't acknowledge the sustain talk, the person doesn't feel validated. But at the same time, if we get really deep into sustain talk, we can get deep into that ocean, and it's not going to be easy to come out of it. So think about a wave, and and the language and sustain talk is like a wave. We want to go in, but then we want to come out of it, come towards that change talk, come to the shore. So start thinking about, once you've spent some time in that sustain talk, start thinking about, what questions can I ask? What could I reflect that would generate some ideas and help the person to think about the reasons for change and the benefits of change that they may see for themselves. So let's not forget about sustain talk, but also think about a wave. Once you go in, you also need to come out of that sustain talk towards change. I hope this makes sense, and thank you so much for sticking with me, and I will see you on my next video. Bye bye.